Доброго дня, шановні колеги.
Good morning, dear colleagues. We start the roundtable devoted to the role of youth in the decentralization process. We have Mr. Mykola Velychkovych, People's Deputy of Ukraine, and who is also First Deputy Chairman of the Verkhovna Rada Committee on Family Matters, and Mr. Barry Reid, Director of International Technical Assistance Program Decentralization, offering better results and effectiveness, DOBRE program. Then we have Mr. Oleg Kokhman from Velykohaivska Consolidated Community, Mr. Vasyl Palamar, the warden of Ivankiv village from Starobogorochansk community in Ivano-Frankivsk region, Ms. Natalia Mazuryan, youth activist from Askania-Nova United Community in Kherson region, Ms. Victoria Valech, a member of the Youth Council of the Pokrovsk United Community in Dnipropetrovsk, Ms. Andrei Kravchenko from Mykola region, head of the youth community. Today's our roundtable is on stream and with simultaneous translation, so I would ask you not to speak very quickly to allow simultaneous translation. I think that the time frames will be as follows. Mr. Velychkovych and Mr. Barry will have up to 7 minutes. All the rest of participants between 5 and 7 minutes. So the first question to Mr. Velychkovych. Very soon we expect to have the parliamentary hearings about the role of youth and contribution of youth to the decentralization process. So what is your vision of this issue? Thank you, Rina. First of all, I would like to thank to the organizers of this roundtable on the eve of future parliamentary hearings on October 15. We expect to have them, and they will be devoted to the socialization of youth. How we will discuss how to support that part of society, young people who remain very proactive in society, and then we will have almost a month for producing recommendations, and we request such recommendations, visions, opinion from various experts, NGOs, all stakeholders. And actually in the parliament we try to create a platform where all the stakeholders will be able to present their positions. And later on, when all those opinions will be compiled in one document, which usually is called recommendations of the parliamentary hearings, then this document will be approved and passed by the plenary room of the parliament. Now I would like to invite to the microphone our guests, because we MPs, we speak quite often on different topics, but I'm interested to hear from people, from experts, etc. What do our parliament do for steering up the activities of young people? We have established special prizes of the parliament, which are awarded to young people for development of decentralization and local self-governance. Also, we provide an opportunity for local communities to inform the parliament about those young people who are very active at the local level in local self-governments. And I am glad to use this today's event to encourage local communities to present such candidates to the parliament, and we will take them as the candidates to get our prizes. I won't take further your time. Let us give more time for discussion. Thank you very much. As far as I know, you are very closely involved to the youth policy. Since 1990, you were one of the founders of the youth movement in this country. And I think that you will contribute further to our discussion. Dear colleagues, I would like to remind you that Mr. Yarema, Deputy Minister of Youth, will join us later. And now I am very pleased to give the floor to Mr. Barry Reid, Director of International Technical Assistance Program, DOBRE. The question to you, Mr. Barry, why DOBRE program devotes such big attention to the youth policy? Quite often, skepticists have doubts whether we should devote much attention to youth. Maybe it's better to allocate more funds and attention to the infrastructure, municipal utilities, etc.
Thank you, Irina. Well, I mean, in short, and I've said this many times, and other people will say this, but youth, of course, are the future of any country. They're the future of any Rada. They are who are going to be the citizens. They're going to be the officials. They're going to be the leaders. You know, and the DOBRE program thinks it's critical to build the capacity of youth in these communities to play that role in the future. You know, what we like to say, you know, in addition to infrastructure, for example, as you mentioned, being an investment, you know, youth are an investment as well, just like infrastructure is. They, in fact, are infrastructure, both human resource and capital. So it's important to develop the youth, but also to make them not only in the community to invest in youth, but make youth invest in the community as well. One of the issues in Ukraine, and it isn't like this in many countries, particularly in rural areas, youth leave those communities. They don't feel connected. They don't feel opportunity. They don't see the potential for what's going to happen in the future. So part of what our effort is to try and create that opportunity, you know, and you do that by making sure youth get involved. The Rada need youth to, you know, express their opinions, their priorities. You know, what is it they want from their community? You know, and by doing that, you build up this investment from the community to the youth, but the youth to the community as well. And so the DOBRE program feels like, just like we would invest in basic infrastructure, that youth are also basic infrastructure. Now, part of our programming, we try and make sure that youth know how to talk to the Hromada. How do you articulate, how do you say what it is you want and need out of your community? And what's the best way to do that? So we work with communities in creating things like the Youth Local Council that kind of give kind of a formal voice and mechanism to be able to talk about what the youth community needs and wants, and then how to express that to the Hromada, the local government, and the community at large. And also it's a way for the community to share messages back to the youth community as well. So, it provides kind of a mechanism for that kind of dialogue and participation and involvement in decision making. And that's really, for the long term, that's so critical for youth to be able to do that. Now, in addition, I can just say what the DOBRE program also does is that, we also, in addition to trying to create this capacity in local youth in our communities, we're also working with them on some more tangible skills like project development and project management. We ask youth leaders that we work with to go back to their Hromada and talk to youth in all of their communities, in all the different villages and settlements of the Hromada, and talk about what it is that youth need. And then we work with them to design a specific project that can begin to fulfill some of that need. So, for example, last week we just opened equipment that we provided to a STEM class in Sarachanska that was requested by youth. That's what the youth felt was important for them, was certain equipment to improve the STEM education in their community. Other communities are looking at more cultural, recreational type of things, which is not unsurprising, looking for things to do, give them, a place to go and enjoy the community, enjoy their other youth, and enjoy other citizens. So things like parks and sports grounds, playgrounds, cultural centers are being requested by youth, and the DOBRE program is going to finance that. So, but part of that process is youth learning how to design a project, how to prepare a project, how to approach in this case, a donor, but also their own Hromada, to talk to them about, we want to do this, and to go through the steps to get support for that. And then ultimately to go through actually the implementation project. And then they will then get to enjoy the work that they've done after going through that process with the end result. So, it's an investment in every community to work with youth, and so that's why it's important for DOBRE. So we're really excited about it, and of course we have some great examples here that you'll hear more about. But so thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Berry. I read several comments about Bobrinetska local community, where the local community had opened a basketball pitch, and the references were as follows. We even did not expect to find out that there were so many young people in that small community, in that small settlement. We thought that all young people quit to bigger town, to bigger city, Kropivnitsky, near it, but we found out that they are still there. Mr. Your head of the Skalapodilska community in Ternopil region. What do you think could be good experience which could be borrowed by other places of Ukraine? Whether you involve young people to the strategic planning, where do you find funding for implementation of the youth projects when young people come to you with their projects, and how you cope with the big area of your community, how you manage to bring that young people closer to each other to maintain this communication, because the territory is very extended, and how you manage to retain young people in your community, because big city Ternopil is very close to your local community, and young people might try to escape. The microphone, please ask him to switch on the mic. I believe that young people are the driving force, and 2 years ago, actually, we found out that there were no young people, almost no young people in our town, and because we were very backward and poor, and having united 14 different villages, we found out that we can do something. And we found out that we need feedback from young people. The future, our future is youth, and we looking at young people in the cities. We wish to have such energetic young people in the village. And so we asked some, we visited Kiev, the capital, and found out that something could be done. And then we discussed the situation with our local council members. So we prepare some suggestions from young people. Then we discuss this with the local council and request for funding. And then local council, local government allocates money. So we decided to have sports grounds in each village to see how many people do we have. We revealed that we have a lot of young people. Then we started to post announcements about youth events, and these events now are being attended by a lot of people. So these specific small steps allowed us to move further. For example, when we allocate money for one school per one. Actually, we decided to allocate at least 100 hryvnia per one young person in all the villages. And we have done this, and young people got involved. Currently, we are we are in the process of establishing the youth council. These days, when I am here in Kiev, I expect them to be registered officially, and then they will start to work. And after some time, we will inform you how successful the project is. Velykohaivska community, head of the department in the local government. Our community comprises 14 different villages. It was established in January 2015. Immediately, we had established our sports and youth department, which is my responsibility in the community. These are that funds which were allocated for sports development in 2016, in 2017. This was procurement of sports equipment, payments for the team applications for the championships, etc. These are different tournaments and championships in which our football teams participate. Our young our youth football team very successfully played this year, and we decided to hire more professional trainers for this team to work with children. This is a presentation of our sports facilities. One stadium, some football grounds, 8 football grounds. This is Velykohaivska stadium in the village, Velykohaivska. The village council had funded irrigation system, that is watering of the pitch, and that's why this is very good pitch, and we host some even national games. This is our football team, this adult team. This week they will have a very decisive game. The sponsor of this team, which invests money together with us, is the private enterprise which works in our village. Here you see different teams from our football club. We allocate 300 hryvnia per day during a tournament. Our village council, when it existed in the past, before consolidated community was established, we allocated money. But this very team in green uniform, they never got money from their village council because they had no village council in the past. Now they enjoy this investment from us. These are newly established teams which were established during the previous 2 years. These are young people born in 2003, 2004. These are sports contests in our region, in our district. These are events organized for young people. Also, we were visited by Miss Francisca Paulin in Paris from Real Madrid team, who visited us, and they had delivered master classes for our children. We had so many volunteers to participate in that events that we had to split them into teams. Here you see the conference, students, youth, contribution to the development of local community. Here you see cultural events for children. we allocated 240,000 hryvnia for these events. For the winners of local school contests in different subjects, we provide even money prizes. And this is final slide. Youth is our future.
Mr. Stepan, you are a young person. What you received thanks to the decentralization? I got the impetus to move towards future. During a very short period, very many changes have happened. What we should do to prevent outflow of youth to other countries or to other regions? I do not see such trends now. Mostly in our community, youth is employed in our community, and they also have where to spend their free time at sports grounds and so on, other facilities. I have a question to the audience. What did you receive from the decentralization, and what is lacking in this process? Mr. Vasyl, I would like to start with you. You are a legend in the decentralization community of experts. You are so active in your Skalapodilska community. When you called and invited us to Borshivsky, Vyshyvanki, I was stopped only by the lack of tickets, train tickets. What is lacking today, and what decentralization provided to your community? And you in person, thank you for giving me the floor. Decentralization may mean just establishment of associated communities, but it also gives us powers and budget, money. What is the role in the process of decentralization which is played by youth? Previously, the youth could influence the allocation of funds only in indirect manner, and now when communities are formed, they get more financing, and youth could be more active and could communicate their messages to the management of their communities. They can lobby for the issues they are interested in. A very important issue is training and education. In the current context, we do not know how to act, so it was interesting. It was interesting to cooperate with U.S. project DOBRE and the Poshan DOBRE-D. Young activists were gathered and trained how to implement their ideas, how to stir up activities of youth in their settlements. It is important, and it is also important that this process should be transferred to the local level. It would be good if in every settlement supported by community and vertical oblast and district administrations trainings are held. This would be good. In particular, the project under which I applied within the scope of DOBRE program, it was the establishment of rural cultural center. Well, it looks like a very ordinary project, but we will equip this center, and after that we will hold many trainings. I am a certified trainer myself, and I have many friends who are ready to come to us and to provide trainings to our young people in our community. First of all, it would be project management topic. We would like to train those young people who are ready to change something in their communities, in their streets, on their sites. Also, public budgets, community budgets, donor funds. We should engage them. We should carry out fundraising, but we should know how to prepare packages of documents. The second is cooperation of youth and authorities, how to communicate with own community members. There is some bureaucratic component in this communication between authorities and communities. Activists in communities, they do not know how to communicate with authorities. This is a very important thing, and we should deliver training sessions. Then lobbying for interests will be much easier for youth projects. And the next, for successful implementation of any project, we need funds. People should understand where these funds are raised from, their technical components, and this also should be subject discipline of training. For example, even recreation facilities projects, they are small projects, but they are like pilot projects to train. Youth is not only our future, they are our present. We are creating our stories, our history today, and those people who are engaged in the processes, ongoing processes, even they are 27 or 30 years old, they are responsible, they are ready to change it, and they are ready to change their own personalities. Talking about the role of youth in decentralization, I would like to talk about education. The powers are transferred to local level. There have been many examples when young people become members of village councils, but they work only for 1 year, no more. This is financial component maybe, but salaries have already been increased. The thing is that young people are not ready to work in new conditions. Even those who work in local self-government, they do not know how to act in new context and how to find the right solution, the right way out of some difficult situations. So here guidance is important. Young specialists should be guided. Then a young person, as a member of authorities, will be able to realize his or her potential, and they have much energy. So youth is not only our future, they are our present. And how to stop outflow of young people to cities. It is normal when young people go to cities, they learn at higher education institutions, but we should create conditions so they are interested to come back. To establish families, to have good leisure time at our own facilities, sports facilities and other recreational facilities. So recreational aspect is important in that when you come to some settlement and they have nothing besides catering cafes, so those people who reside in Ternopil village, region villages, they prefer to come back and live in Ternopil city. Do you have any old people in your community. I am the head of community who is the youngest. I am the youngest. We cooperate very closely. The head of community. There are some issues when we do not know the right solution, then I call to more experienced colleagues in the village, neighboring village. We are almost of the same age with the warden of the neighboring community, and I try to find out what solutions he uses. Victoria Vela, can you tell us about your experience in Dnipropetrovsk region, Pokrovska, United Territorial Community? Our territorial community has been in existence not so long. We do not have much experience, but as concerns our youth council, which was created as a body at the head of the village council, first we cooperated with him, with the head of council, then we decided, our community decided to establish a youth council. It was registered on 27th of July 2016, but it was registered but not formed in full. And this youth day this year we announced our full operation. We communicate with children, with teenagers, with youth, with high school children and preschool children from kindergartens, and we try to improve the territory of water reservoirs where our young people spend leisure time at the beaches of those water reservoirs. We also clean these areas near the lakes and small rivers, and this year we cleaned up the abandoned stadium. Now sports trainings are already ongoing at the stadium. Karate group and other groups. For schools and kindergartens, we organize festivals. We have we have also communication and cooperation with religious leaders. For example, an emblem I like Pokrovsk emblem was created. We create forms of recreational activities of youth so that young people feel interested being in our community. We seek for new forms of actions. We are developing the design, the project of rollerdrome. It has been approved. We are seeking funds. We are raising funds to create this rollerdrome. This is the situation, the status quo. Miss Lesa, good afternoon, everyone. I represent Starobogichanska United Community. We are the youngest. We were created on August 10th this year, but we started very actively, and after creation we have already completed cleaning actions, environmental actions. We cleaned up rivers, beaches, rivers banks, and the stadium as well. And we also sorted the waste for the funds which we earned through via delivery of this waste, we conducted other improvement actions on children's playgrounds, and we also are engaged, we take part in festivals in the village, and we took part in the festival, the abandoned sons of our area. I should say that we also held such an event as a charitable football game in cooperation with the religious organization Chaplains of Precarpathian area. The Chaplains of Precarpathian area, they send those money to orphanages, and we are proud that these orphanages got stationery goods. Now we are working on creating memorandum on cooperation with chaplains. We hope for further cooperation with the NGO. As to our lines of further activities, we have had negotiations with the youth platform. We will be holding training sessions, and we take part in various trainings because we understand that it is significant component. We visited trainings, attended trainings on budgeting in United Territorial Communities. Some of our members took part in Leaders School, which was organized in the Voice of Community in Global Communities DOBRE program. Besides these trainings, we understand that they are not this is not enough. Youth does not have needed skills. We want the trainings to cover more young people, so that young people, not only members of council, but all young people understand what we are talking about and what we are striving for. At the moment, good best practices are, for example, in Poland, we can organize some exchange with youth from foreign countries. As concerns trainings, we have already results as to participation budget. Participatory budget was considered by the authorities, and the authorities included our proposals into the budget, and we are now preparing budget for 5 years. Allocations will be provided, so our council works very actively, but also we have bottlenecks we should address. You told that your activities cover cleaning and improvement of land. Don't you feel that they should do some utilities, communal utilities? What is your motivation to hold events? Yes, we feel so. They are communal services who should be responsible for this state of our territories. Our young people, they are motivated by enthusiasm mostly. Motivation is an acute issue because enthusiasm will not last forever. So there should be preconditions for young people to feel that development worth their efforts. the jobs and social lives and career development, they are really very acute problems in villages. Thank you, Mr. Andrei. You are welcome. Pribuzhanivska community, Andrei Kravchenko, good afternoon. I would like to share our experience of our Pribuzhanivska United Territorial Community. I would like to tell you about our achievements and our problems which we face in our activities. I would like to start with the establishment of our Youth Council. 5 villages in Zaburzhye believed into the decentralization and united into one community, United Territorial Community. The management of community for a long time thought over how to engage people to activities in the community, young people, because they understand that young people play an important role in the community and in the council activity. The fair of opportunities was conducted. This event to this event, young people from the whole community were invited. The young people met and created an initiative group. They proposed to discuss the idea of establishment of youth council. And we also heard about DOBRE forum, and we took part in this forum. It provided us very many opportunities for self-development, self-realization, self-actualization, provided us tools for our further activities. At the end of this event, we got an assignment, a home task, to develop a project, to develop youth at our united community. So when we came back, we organized a new initiative group, and it consists of members of community of different villages, and we heard the ideas how to work with youth. We proposed a questionnaire survey in the villages. So when we identified what problems are, we met at the next meeting, and after that we submitted the project to DOBRE program. We got an affirmative approval from DOBRE program. Next, at the village council, the statute of council was approved. After that, we met members of deputies of our village council. We discussed how to cooperate between authorities and young youth council. At the other meeting, we held elections to our youth council. Our youth council is active in implementing different projects. For example, the project of recreation center in each village component of the United Territorial Community. We will also carry out disco events there. We take part in all training sessions under the DOBRE program. These trainings provide us impetus and motivation. Every training add to our council new members. This way we expand our activities and we are active in different actions. One of them was We Are for Clean Environment. It was a spontaneous event. We just went to the bank of Pivdenny Bug River, and those people who had rest there, they were we used our own example, and we cleaned up the waste, the garbage on this bank. We demonstrated to all the visitors of the river bank how to address waste, what to do with the waste, how to collect waste. Our youth also took part in Ivana Kupala festival. The next action was after the news conference in Kiev. The action was from youth. We would like to give our respect to the elderly persons. We used the bus and during our trip we were providing lectures to people that elderly persons should be respected, because in this bus we often see disrespect to elderly people. So we proved that young people could be respectful. We visited the market, the shops, grocery stores with these banners and telling that elderly persons deserve respect. We are also volunteering. The Secretary of Youth Council, Tatiana, she took the clothing which was brought by our members. We provided this clothing to the Regional Center for Psychological Development of Children, to those children in need. The authorities cooperate with us. They are interested and willing to contact, so I would like to thank our authorities for their active support and engagement in our activities. The prospects of our Youth Council are as follows. We are developing the plan to inform and engage more youth. After that, we will visit schools and other educational institutions to provide information about our Youth Council, that we are interested in life in our community, and at the website of Pribuzhanivska United Territorial Community, we have posts, but we will also create our Youth Council individual web page. The main aspect today is creating youth NGO, the heart of active youth. What motivated us to establish NGO, the heart of active youth? Such an youth council, it is connected with politics, and fundraising is rather hard, but NGO can create our image as an independent organization. For example, we can develop projects and submit them to the youth council, and youth council will submit it to the village council. So there will be a chain, a full chain, an NGO, a youth council, and the village council. This is an emblem of the Heart of Active Youth NGO, which is in prospect. But we would like to establish it. And now I would like to tell about our problems. Youth do not believe in their voice to be considered by authorities. Youth is not ready to take part in person in development of communities. Youth do not feel changes after the community has become united territorial community. This is what we were said upon survey from our members of youth.
Good morning. I will describe the situation in our community. We are Askania-Nova, consolidated community. At the beginning of our session, Oleg mentioned that during their first session, there were no young people at all. But in our community, the situation is quite opposite. We joined the local authorities from the very beginning. When I finished my studies at the university, I came back to my native community, to my school actually, but now in capacity of a teacher. And at the very beginning, I felt that having come home after 15 years of absence, I found out that the situation is rather depressed. And very soon I understood that local people, all the teachers, all the people, they did not want any changes, while I felt myself younger and I wanted changes. And when we planned celebration of the new academic year, we again invited, as usual, teachers, old teachers, then young people. And I've heard that young people were very interested in changes, and that meeting was devoted to the topic, what is the role of youth in local community. And students quite often mentioned that the opinion of young people was never taken into account. So having looked at this situation, I decided to do something. This is my school, where from which I graduated and where I came back after my university studies. So it had stirred up my enthusiasm. As Henry Ford mentioned once, if you have enthusiasm, you can reach everything you wish. So we decided to rethink our approach. First, we organized role games. Then we started regular trainings. We became part of the trainings of civic activities, which was held in Kherson. Then we studied how to produce social advertising. Then when we participated in Mykolaiv city youth forum, DOBRE, then we established a youth center. Now we are in the process of creating it. Then we organized the informational session for youth in our community. We identified several problem issues, and then with this problem issues approached our local government and suggested to contribute to the development strategy. And now this development strategy is approved, and 2 items of it, establishing youth council and establishing youth center, were approved by local government, and now we are actually working on the implementation of these points. My colleagues mentioned all those events which they organized for young people in their communities. Here you see the Vyshyvanka Day event, then some environmental events like planting trees, like cleaning activities or tidying up activities. In the past, we just called to different organizations, youth organizations, and invited them. But I suggested to post just an announcement that all young people are welcome to come to the Saturday day volunteering event. And this worked the most successfully. In summer, we had a festival of European Film Festival jointly with the local library. In local library, we also deliver some master classes to children in various handicrafts. This is celebration of the community day. There is a race, a marathon, then volleyball championship, football championship, the concert, which was organized by our school children, and of course, then some other events, and this enthusiasm which I mentioned at the very beginning, it spreads around like an epidemic, and more and more young people come to me and wish to participate in this interesting youth life in our local community. I try to demonstrate to them with my own example that much depends on young people themselves. And I have a recommendation to the representatives of local authorities. Ask your young community, young people, what is their vision of the development of the community. It might be very much different from your vision. It is not better or not worse, but it is different, and maybe it might be useful for you. We hope that we will be able to implement all the events which are provided in our strategy. We hope that your patience and tolerance will allow us to maintain fruitful relations in the future. The past belongs to the history. the future belongs, the future remains a mystery, and this very moment, it's a present. That's why we call the today a magic. Now we have got Mr. Oleksander Yarema, who joined us. Before giving the floor to Mr. Yarema, I would like to ask two questions to Mr. Koba. Your colleagues mentioned that for young people in community, it is very important to be heard by local government. So my question to you, how do you monitor the opinion of young people? You like sports, football. How do you know that other members of the community are very happy with only football and nothing else? From our presentation, it looks like we deal with the support of football championships and with nothing else. But nevertheless, we monitor the opinion of young people. Let me think it over. We are not that old yet, by the way. Listening to Natalia, I've put down some ideas and decided to connect our young people with Natalia and to share experience. When young people wish to paint, to color a bridge or some fence into colors, international colors, this brings a lot of optimism to all people who pass by. And this is a local initiative, local youth initiative. Also, we try to listen to them when they submit some ideas. We always try to implement their ideas very quickly, and we try to do this. Thank you. Mr. Yarema, at the very beginning, we mentioned that the parliamentary hearings are scheduled later this month, and one of the objectives of those parliamentary hearings would be to stir up the problems of youth at the local level, and then produce recommendations and disseminate them. What do you think are the biggest problems of youth, and what do you plan to do with them? Thank you very much. This is very interesting event. Today, in the National Academy, there was the conference devoted to the national values and the role of values in policy development. That's why I came a bit later. But nevertheless, I think that we in the government, we have established good relations with the Sports, Youth and Family Parliamentary Committee, and the Parliament remains in contact with us and has a good vision of these problems. For us, the bigger issue is how to develop a policy towards youth development at the local level, how to provide young people with opportunities at the local level, how to allow young people feel themselves as a important component of local community. Decentralization provides us with many opportunities, and our role is not to waste these opportunities. Of course, we develop some infrastructural projects and repair roads, but the most essential issue, whether young people will remain in those communities and how they will see their future in those local communities. So jointly with DOBRE program, with other stakeholders, in partnership with the civil society, we're trying to determine the model, how to build up these relations between young people and society to retain young people in the villages. This year we carried out a big opinion poll. More than 2,000 respondents, young people, were questioned about their vision, about the vision of their role in the decentralization process. And we found out that many young people do know about decentralization, but half of them have not felt these changes in their lives yet. And many young people mentioned that they are ready to become active agents of change in the decentralization. That's why now, jointly with the Association of Communities of Ukraine and the Association of Cities of Ukraine, we started discussion how to involve young people into local governance. It is very important for young people to feel themselves as part of a local community, to feel themselves as owners of local process. And this autumn, our colleagues from DOBRE, we tried to review, in course of conference, tried to discuss possible models for cooperation between youth and local governments. Do you have this presentation with you? Unfortunately, I do not have it handy. We will disseminate it. The key role of this, the key question of the model is as follows: how young people could participate in local governance, who should be responsible for youth involvement at the community level. Maybe there should be a special position inside the local government to have a person responsible for involvement of youth. Recently, some members of local governments applied to me and asked whether they could establish such positions in their local councils. Then we decided to have unofficial trainings for young people, training for trainers. And later to send these trainers to local communities and to train youth activists. So we have set a target to train at least one trainer per 2,000 young people, in order to engage more proactively young people to the local municipal work. Quite often young people remain indifferent because they are not involved simply. So there could be official positions in the councils, or alternatively, there might be activists, youth activists, and youth trainers from the local civil society. Everything is possible. Decentralization had put to the light the following problems. What should happen to the local libraries, to the local cultural centers which lack funding, which are partially damaged or faded, and we found out that at the local level, there are some people ready to become such trainers, so to say, for young people, to become responsible for cooperation with young people. So we have established cooperation with the Ministry of Culture, and in the Donetsk region we have established several youth centers. In Ternopil region we have established several youth centers which could be used as platform for involvement of youth, for delivery of trainings to young people, and thus young people could be able to express their opinion about further community development. Last week I was in Volnovakha in the Donetsk region, where we discussed prospective development of youth infrastructure and youth policy in Donetsk region. There were a lot of people who came together. They plan to open 75 such youth centers up to the end of this year. And there is a huge activity of young people in the local communities. By the way, such youth centers are being opened in even gray area close to the front line. They are opened between 8 p.m. and 11 p.m. and involve young people into many activities, and on weekends from 8 a.m. those cultural centers are opened for young people. They offer a lot of activities, trainings, and such, thus satisfy the demand which we feel from young people for such activities. And I believe that all that work which I mentioned will allow us, on the one hand, to engage young people, but it brings in important question of funding. So we have to think how to establish special hubs or centers where we'll allocate local money, community money, sponsors money, and business money from local business who is willing to contribute to the youth development in local communities. We do not speak about huge money here, of course. No, we are speaking about funding of these small youth centers in local communities. So I would like to emphasize once again that we started to pay a lot of attention to youth development at regional level, and we expect the future parliamentary hearings to become a milestone in this work. We have carried out the opinion polls, the survey, and we are now more prepared. We started to do some work. We have got initial experience, and in the parliament during future hearings, we will listen to young people, and we will listen to the MPs who will describe their legislative initiatives aimed at improving the youth space, so to say, at the community level. Thank you for your Mr. Yarema, how will you escape from becoming a hostage of that one trainer per 2,000 of young people standard? How many young people do you have? Young people? Up to 300 people. Look in Pokrovska community where they have 12,000 of population, but they have only 300 young people. In Askania-Nova, they have 6,000 of residents, and they will also have not so many young people. In each community, even in the smallest community, there should be minimum one person responsible for cooperation with youth. And we believe that even in the smallest local community, there should be one officer responsible for work with youth. It could be not officially indicated that this very employee of the local government is responsible for cooperation with young people. Now, it's not obligatory. Mykola, Velychkovych, one comment from you. I would like to make an emphasis on the youth problems. Actually, today we devoted much attention to leisure time of young people, but young people between 25 and 30 years of age, they are very proactive in local communities. So they are interested not just in leisure issues. At the age of 25 years, a person could become a local leader of local self-government. So we should provide support to these young people to encourage them to become community leaders, open new businesses, to become socially proactive. I think we will pose these issues during our parliamentary hearings. So we should speak not just about leisure aspects of youth in the local communities, but also about the opportunities for self-realization of young people. Dear participants, do you have any questions? Could you present yourself?
Yarema Zhurba, UCMC. I would like to ask about the library. Miss Natalia provided an example that also workshops in the library held. There are several aspects here. There are digital technologies. They press out the printed books. But there is a need to reform libraries. Sometimes we have libraries at schools, in communities, whether they have enough readers. What about modernization? Is it needed in libraries? Or maybe formation of some clubs where people can have some meetings for their cultural and educational activities. And what happened to libraries? Whether the decentralization process added something to their development? I know the situation whether to change or to disappear. Whether you have any models which could be disseminated, best practices that could be disseminated among other communities, replicated among other communities. This is for community members the question. Thank you for your question. The idea to hold events, for example, workshops on puppets making. We didn't have any premises, and the village library proposed their premises themselves. This is a very good place, as you have already said. Library where readers come to read. Library is not interesting for community members in this aspect. So libraries, they thought how to invite people to libraries. So some events could be based in village libraries. This would evoke interest among community members to libraries, and library staff in our case, they were active. They invited us and we responded and organized the event. I am not from community, but I know good best practices of transformation of centers of culture, which are where portions of the centers provided to use for their recreation activities. For example, in Savranin, Odessa region, this is already a classic best practice example. Here we can also talk about transformation of libraries. We know that they work either from time to time or they are closed at 6 o'clock p.m. Then youth do not know what to do in the evening. As concerns transformation, there are good examples in cities. For example, Shevchenko Library in Odessa. It has transformed into a hub and a space and a cultural center. I heard from my counterparts from the Ministry of Culture that some bibliobuses should be established, mobile libraries. This is also space where young people can lend some books and get them from bibliobus and return them to these mobile libraries. This is one of the solutions, how to engage youth to read in printed books, not only virtual electronic books. Thank you. As concerns, I represent Gaev, Velykohaivska community. On organization of libraries, we visited Ternopil, consolidated community. They create interesting recreational centers for workshops where you can work with species, you can go to fitness classes or dancing classes. These facilities, they cost 1 million, and many events are held there. And libraries, they want to work in such centers. They do not want to be closed, and they learn along with young people, along with children. We plan to do such recreational center to replicate this experience, but library staff, they are of elderly age, and we would like to engage young people so that they implement projects in libraries. Libraries are needed, but we need to learn how to use them. The final question, please. Demyanenko Evgeny, Deputy of Zaporizhzhia Regional Council. I do not have question, but I would like to add that youth is not only people going in for tourism or sports. We have started working more with higher school students, with high educational institutions, university students, and we see large demand from youth. Training are very important. They will help young people to budget, to write projects. I see that in Melitopol very much youth are taking part in such activities, and budgets grow eventually from year to year. And now when you consolidated communities are formed and we are preparing elections, the big problem is the belief of youth. So youth should learn how to communicate their ideas. I would like to agree with Oleksander that trainings for young staff, they should be organized, and I am now looking for such trainings in Kharkiv region, in Dnipropetrovsk region, to replicate them in Zaporizhzhia. In our Zaporizhzhia Regional Council, we have many young members now. Despite of different parties, they add to our activities. Just 5 seconds to every member. What is your plan? What is your short-term plans? What are your short-term plans? I want to see the strategy of development of youth policy, not program, but strategy. I would like to see in my community active youth and belief in changes, because now they do not demonstrate such belief. It is very relevant. Young staff, we dream that young staff will work in our community. I dream for our young people to be engaged in activities of our community, consolidated community. Active and sporty youth, this is my dream. That youth which outflow, they outflow only to get university degree and then to come back to villages to develop them, to develop communities. Thank you to UCMC for this roundtable discussion organized in the scope of DOBRE program. Thank you to all the participants, and Mr. Mykola and Mr. Oleksander, you saw the third revolution, decentralization as a reform. You can see how many interesting persons generating ideas in the decentralization process, but they should remain at local level, at sites. These youth initiatives, they are almost the only programs, but they will end early or later. So we should develop our fundraising mechanism, and we hope that you in the parliament, in executive, central executive authorities, and that parliamentary hearings on November 15th will provide us actual models and mechanisms to resolve the problems which we heard today.